Today I'm taking you on a little creative adventure that started with absolutely zero plan other than the fact that I refuse to leave any thrift store without at least one project that makes me say, Katie, what are you even doing? I found a $3 grab bag of cloth napkins and I am turning it into the cutest quilt ever. So the other day I popped into my favorite thrift store and I happened to find some of the most beautiful fabric that I really want to make into like a quilt for myself. So let's go through it and see what I make. Okay, so it's pretty thin, but what I didn't realize when I first bought this fabric is that the ladies at the thrift store it's like an all volunteer thrift store and there's like a craft section. So the ladies that work in the craft section, they really know what they're doing and they try their hardest to make things as presentable as possible for when the fabric gets sold. And so sometimes you find things that were like remnants and they're in these um like smaller grab bags, like, and they're just like folded up, like you just see like the top and the bottom and all the folds on the side. So like I saw that this one was on the top and I thought this was beautiful because I was actually looking at some fabric like this to buy on Etsy, but it was all shipping from India. And now with the tariffs, those things are so expensive. So I was like, no, I'm not going to buy that. But I was lucky and I found all of this fabric in the thrift store. But I don't know if you can see this. There's like all these sewing machine holes here. So like, I don't know. I think maybe these were like napkins because it was like folded over and there was like this rolled hem. Oh, that must have been what it was. These were like linen napkins. So the ladies at the thrift store, or even maybe the person who donated them, picked out all of the stitches, and some of the stitches are actually still there. So I have to go through here and I gotta take out all of the stitches. I gotta iron it and then I'm gonna cut it up. I think I'm gonna use 4x4 inch squares this time. And um actually I don't know. Would 4x4 inch squares sort of take away from each of the prints? I don't know. I'll measure it out in each one and see if I like the 4x4. You know, I think I'm just gonna do the 4x4 um, and do another patchwork quilt. And these are so thin that they may actually need some stabilizer on it. But since I'm going to be making a quilt for myself, I don't really mind using the stabilizer. I'm hesitant to use stabilizer for when like doing patchwork on baby quilts because I don't know about like the glues that are used in the stabilizer and if that's like toxic or if like little infants would be sensitive to that, especially if they're like sleeping on it, putting it close to their face, breathing it in. I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments if like stabilizer has like some toxic glue, or if it like resides in the fabric after it's been washed. I'm just not sure, but I really want to use that method to stabilize this to make it all the points match up together. So I have all of this fabric. I need to go through iron and get the remnants of the thread taken out. So I've picked out all of the old stitches from when the fabric were actually napkins. So I did that while I was sitting on the couch, so I didn't film any of that. But I just finished ironing and there's still like a ton of creases. I don't know if you can see that, but there's still a ton of creases where, and you can see like the sewing holes, the sewing machine holes, they must have been using like a really big needle and the thread must have been really big too because I can't even get those like holes out. So I am going to trim up the edges and then cut them into either 5x5 or 4x4 squares. And then I'm going to arrange them into a quilt and we'll see what happens. I thought I was able to just do a time lapse of this and I thought all of the squares would be like the same size, but they're not. Like, so this light like teal one is maybe here, let me measure it up on here. You can see that it's like an inch longer than the other light blue one. So I think I'm going to have to cut each individual square. Oh my gosh, this is going to take so long. was time-lapsing the last video, but I was actually just filming it. So I decided on 4 by 4 inches, and that one napkin got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16 squares, 16 4 by 4 squares by one napkin. So this is going to be a lot of fabric for my quilt, and I'm really excited because you can see the pattern, but it's not too overwhelming for each little 4 by 4 square. So I am going to cut up the rest and then see how many pieces of fabric I actually get out of it. It's going to be exciting because there's so much fabric in it. And once it's all cut up, you can barely see where the actual like hemline was before. Let's see, I'll show you one. Can you even see that? You can see a little bit here. There's like a crease and then there's a couple of holes. But I'm thinking once the quilting goes in and once it's washed, you won't even be able to see any of that. And I sort of like that there's a crease there, like from the old hem, because it shows that this was like reused fabric. It's not just like first-hand fabric, it's reused, which is everything that I'm about here at Katie Cat Studio. I want to recycle, reduce, and reuse. I want to save fabric from the landfill, and I want to be more sustainable in my life. I'm already pretty sustainable, but I'm trying to get even more sustainable. And with that said, this is all the scraps from that one piece. So there is like some cutoffs. That's like the rest from cutting the 4-inch squares. It's like about 1 inch, and then the little extra bits. And I never threw this away. This just goes into one of my scrap piles, and I use it for stuffing, but also that I made that jacket from all my scraps, so nothing gets wasted here. Bengal Spice just came in. Say hi, Bengal. Say hi. He's gonna keep me company all day today. And we've got a couple more hours of sewing before I need to do some other life things, like cleaning up all the leaves. We've had a couple of storms lately, and it's fall time, and there's so many leaves on the ground, even though I just cleaned them up last week. So I'm gonna do maybe an hour or two more of sewing, and then I'm gonna go outside. So for the red one, it came out a little different. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 squares fewer than all the other ones, which means there's 11 total. So that's okay. Still a lot out of that. And then some little scrappy bits. When I was finished cutting, I had 187 4 by 4 squares, and this pile, it was just, oh, it was so satisfying. I had decided that I actually only wanted to use about half of the pile because I didn't want to have any reds in this personal quilt for myself. I decided to use more of the pinks, the blues, the greens, and the grays. Once I decided on a layout that I liked, I cut the 100% fusible interfacing into squares that would allow 9 of the 4 by 4 inch squares and some of the blue sashing. I decided to add the blue as an afterthought because I thought the quilt needed a solid to make it look a little less chaotic. I have the interfacing on my pressing mat with the glue side up. Then I arrange all of the pieces as straight as I can, and then I just press them. I'm being careful here not to press the hot plate of the iron onto the interfacing, but I did actually accidentally glue a few pieces to the iron, but it wasn't a big deal because this interfacing isn't as sticky as the polyester interfacing that I'm used to. This stuff only sort of barely holds the fabric onto the interfacing, and I question if my fabric were thicker, if this would even work. Regardless, it worked great for me and this really lightweight cotton fabric. I did my best to make sure that all the blocks were lined up, but it's okay if there's small gaps between the squares because that will get hidden in the seam allowance once I start sewing this all together. As you can see, the 100% cotton interfacing is holding all of the blocks together, which is great for the next step. Next came sewing all the blocks to the interfacing. I like to sew in one direction with parallel lines first, and then I press all the seams to one side and then come back to the sewing machine and sew all the perpendicular lines. You can see here that I have only sewn the first batch of parallel lines, and I'm going to get ready to press them all to one side. Pressing becomes even more important when you're using interfacing because if you don't press, then your seams are going to be really bulky and your corners aren't going to match up perfectly. So just make sure that you press between the parallel lines and the perpendicular lines. Then I repeated this process until all the fabric blocks were sewn onto the interfacing, and then I sewed all the finished blocks together. I should also mention here that I am using 1/4 inch seams for everything, including sewing the fabric to the interfacing and sewing the individual blocks together. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at here or why I'm hesitating to do anything else. I think my corners didn't line up exactly how I wanted. However, I went ahead and persevered. Next on the list was actually squaring everything up. I didn't really do this between each block, but I figured I should do this when all 3 blocks on each row were together just to make sure that everything came out square and was really easy in this next step. I then clipped everything together, brought it back to my sewing machine, and did the finishing touches of sewing the top together. I didn't do a great job of keeping track of my time, but my best estimate for all the sewing was about 5 hours, and that included all of the pressing and clipping too. The only thing left on the list is for the final reveal. Hello, my friends. This is the second time I'm recording this because the last time my head was cut off and I actually want to film something with my face in it. I don't mean to cut off my head, it's just that I'm really bad at filming things, and so let's go for round 2. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick little recap about this project. I had a great time with this project, especially because I made the decision before I even started all of this was to get 100% cotton stabilizer, and that was game changer. I don't know if you know this, but most of the stabilizers that you just buy on the internet are polyester or some sort of blend of polyester, and I didn't want that. I really wanted just 100% cotton because I was dealing with cotton, and I feel like quilts should just be cotton. It's just nicer. I don't want all that polyester stuff in my quilt. So I got the 100% cotton stabilizer, and it was game changer. It made sewing everything up so quick, so easy. And the best part is that I wasn't fiddling around with the fabric too much. The fabric is really, really thin, and if I hadn't had the stabilizer, it would not have been a fun project. It would have been a nightmare. Everything would have just like, you know, gone all cattywampus when I was sewing. The fabric would have been stretched out and there would have been so many holes. Just the fraying alone would have been really bad on the edges. So I'm so glad I used the stabilizer. The next thing on my list is I am trying to decide if I want to put a border around the outside, whether I do it with another solid color. I'd have to find a solid color with the same weight of this type of fabric, or if I use the backing fabric as a border. Let me know in the comments if you think that this would be too chaotic as a border, or if you think it would actually go with this, because I'm pretty sure that this is the fabric that I'm going to use for the backing. It is another vintage floral bed sheet. This is a top bed sheet, and I think it's for a queen. I want to say it's a queen size bed sheet. I got it for about $5 at my very favorite local thrift store, and I'm excited to use it with this quilt. I think it goes pretty well. It's not the most perfect piece of fabric for the back because I'm not a huge fan of this yellow. It's a little bright for me, but it's what I have, and I don't want to buy anything extra for this project. So I'm going to use this as the backing unless one of you wants to send me some backing that would go perfect. And so I need to figure out if I'm going to do a border, and then I'm going to figure out how I want to quilt it. I've been really enjoying the 1.5-inch squares for quilting. So I'm going to do that. And oh, I have to buy batting too. I don't have any batting, so I have to buy some batting for this and quilt it up. So I have a lot ahead of me. I'm hoping to do this sometime either over the weekend or next week. And oh, and then I got to put the binding on. I'm thinking that I'll put a binding on with this, the backing fabric, because I have a lot of it and I know I'll have some of that left over. Or I could do blue. I could do, but ugh, that would be awful. No, I don't want to use the blue because I would have to put stabilizer on all of it, which would be okay, but no, it wouldn't be that great for a binding. Anyway, I have a lot to do, and so I'm going to get to it. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, done is better than perfect. Oh, I forgot to add, if you guys stuck around for this long, that means you guys are my ride or die, and you get a little sneak peek of all the other things that I've been working on. I have been doing some, I like to call it couch crafts because it's what I do when I'm a vegetable on the couch, and I like to do embroidery. So I have been making these little bookmarks. They're hand embroidered, and then I'm putting them onto these like little antique looking metal bookmarks. I have 4 of them made so far. Oh, that one has some glue on it still. Let me know what you think. If I'm crazy and no one would actually purchase these, or if they're super cute and you would purchase them for yourself or for a present of some sort. And I've also been obsessed with pom-poms lately. This is another one of my couch crafts, and I love pom-poms. I'm obsessed with them now, and I made this wreath. It was intended to be like more of a Christmas wreath, but I just don't like the color red, so I made it more of a mossy goblin core type of green and white wreath. Do you guys love it? Hate it? I don't know. If you would like me to do a tutorial about pom-pom wreaths, or just do sort of a vlog about pom-pom wreaths, let me know, and I listen, and maybe I'll make one of these. Anyway, see you in the next one.